Greetings! I am Herbert Erpaderp, and would you look at that? Somehow it's suddenly May, so I guess it's time for another Ask a Herbert Erpaderp. And because I don't really have anything to say, how about I start answering questions instead of waffling? Trekan Beluvic said, "Have you been at Fraser Island seeing the wreck of the SS Mahino? I know it's more than 200 kilometers away from Brisbane, but anyway." I have been to Fraser Island and seen that wreckage. It is quite well known. I haven't been there since I was quite young though. I don't know if it's true or not, but I was told that somebody had a wedding on the Mahino sometime shortly after it was wrecked, and that's kinda cool. I don't think it would make a very good wedding venue these days though. Still, it's interesting, and Fraser Island is a really beautiful place. Maybe I should go there again sometime. Major General Bunk said, "Would it be heresy for me to make the Revell Big Boy kit into a souped-up Kriegslock for bolt-action scenery?" I'm going to say probably yes, which makes it awesome. I'm sure somebody would soil themselves with rage about it, but that's really a them problem. I think it would be awesome, and that is obviously something I'd like to see. So if you want to do it, please do. And don't forget to share some pictures. Hetz's Gunner Hetz said, "What's next for ChatGPT? Coding the next farming simulator?" I will admit that I don't really know much about ChatGPT, or any other AI, but I have heard that it can sort of code, in that it kind of mimics existing code and isn't really thinking for itself. Not yet anyway. I figured it might be interesting to ask it this question, and here's the answer. As an AI language model, I do not have the ability to code or develop games like Farming Simulator. My primary function is to generate human-like responses to natural language input, to assist users in a variety of tasks, from answering questions and providing information, to engaging in conversation and offering advice. My creators at OpenAI are continually improving my abilities so I can provide more accurate, comprehensive, and helpful responses to users. They are also exploring ways to integrate me into various applications and services to improve user experiences. So, in short, my future development will likely focus on improving my language understanding and generation abilities, enhancing my ability to engage in human-like conversation, and expanding my potential applications to benefit users in a variety of industries and fields. So, I guess maybe it can't code. This also explains why it's not a good research tool, like some people seem to think it is, because it doesn't really do research, and it will just add things that seem plausible and look like a human has written them, but the facts, and facts is in quotation marks here, could be totally wrong. It is interesting though, and I'm sure AI is going to be very big and useful in the near future. I also suspect it's going to be very dystopian, and we're going to end up using it totally wrong, and we're going to have AI running scams and doing all of the fun creative things that humans do, so that we've got more time to do tedious bullshit work for huge corporations. On the other hand, it is kind of exciting to think that we could have things like in Star Trek, where we just tell the computer what we want to see in the holodeck and it just does it. That would be kind of cool. Trekan Beluvic said, "Do you think the sinking of the HMAS Sydney in November of 1941 is still of interest for Australia?" In general, to the average Australian, I would say no. I don't really know much about the history, but I'm pretty sure the wreckage was found. Actually, I was curious, so I googled it, and it was found in 2008, so somewhat recently, and that's kind of interesting. But if you mentioned HMAS Sydney to the average person, they would probably not really think much about it, and likely they would just assume you're talking about the more recent ship of the same name. Hetz's Gunner Hetz said, "Thoughts on Dave Foray and his 72nd scale Ark Royal?" I don't really have any thoughts on the man himself, though he seems to be a good modeler. The ship is quite impressive, and obviously it's really big, and I'm kind of jealous of the space you would even need to build such a thing. I think it looks great, and I'd love to check it out in person. I also rather enjoy that the blades on the helicopters spin. Herchion said, "If you can't commit to a paid subscription like Patreon, is there a tip jar like Ko-Fi, or Coffee, somewhere for Herbert? I tried the old Twitch wishlist and it didn't work." I don't really know how Ko-Fi or Coffee or whatever it's called works, but I have thought about checking it out before. I guess I keep getting distracted, but I might add that sometime in the near future. There should be a donate link in the information panels on my Twitch channel, which works through Streamlabs. There is a wishlist there and that's separate, so maybe that's what you clicked? I'm not sure. But unless I've forgotten something, that is currently the only place you can do a one-time donation type thing. Architect N Plus said, in your opinion, what is the best tank of World War II and why? And Eru added, and which is the worst? The answer is going to be the same for both, and it's probably a disappointing answer, but the answer is I'm not a big fan of this question. How do you define best or worst? My definition is mostly which one do I think looks the coolest, and really I'm just too indecisive to choose between things like Cromwells and Tigers and what have you. The having to choose one and stick to it thing some people do is just weird to me. Anyway, discussions around what people think the best tank is are, at least in my opinion, tedious and not very interesting, and it's usually just people who base all their opinions on World of Tanks or War Thunder stats, or maybe some historical paper specifications, with no thought given to context and circumstances around various vehicles and situations they were developed or used in. Then you get the fun people who decided that whatever tank is the best for whatever arbitrary reason, and get all defensive and argumentative about it. Maybe that sort of thing is fun for people with a singular obsession with tanks. I don't know. I've got better things to think about, like whether I should get a kebab or a burrito for lunch. Panzer4 said, I was looking around your very old videos and came across some videos of mice. Please explain the story. There isn't really much of a story. I had pet mice and then I became interested in breeding them, which I did for a while. I like brindle mice because they have a kind of tiger-like pattern, so I ended up trying to breed Manx brindles, Manx being mice with no tails, and I was able to do that. I also learned a bit about genetics from it. I have, unfortunately, though not really surprisingly, forgotten most of it. I stopped breeding them a while ago and decided to let them die. Having just said that out loud seems a lot more horrible than it actually is. What I mean is I let them live out the rest of their lives, and I'm pretty sure they did so happily. They don't live all that long, so they've all died off now. I am often tempted to get more though. They are quite nice pets if you look after them properly. In the comment section of last month's Ask a Herbert Erpaderp, Mark Ferguson said, "Where the hell do you get off calling yourself old? I mean, I'm 70, and almost everyone I see looks like a kid to me. But look, the saying about age being a state of mind, and I'm not referring to Alzheimer's, makes more and more sense to me the more calendar years get behind me. Just thought you'd find that helpful." It is helpful, and I am aware of it, though sometimes a reminder is nice. Mentally, I don't really feel old at all. I do quite often physically feel old these days, probably mostly because I'm always exhausted, but I suppose being exhausted isn't really an age thing at all. Mostly I tell people I'm old in a jokey sort of way, and I do feel like I'm actually older than most of the people around here, especially on Twitch. I know that I'm not really that old yet, not really old enough to be sitting in a rocking chair on the front porch yelling at kids about the lawn. I do look forward to that though. Lousy punk kids. At any rate, I'm okay with age, and it is a privilege to get old that a lot of people don't get. I'm still going to complain and make weird noises when I move though. That's it for the questions this month. Let's go check out some of the models that have been shared over on Discord. Trekan Beluvic has been painting something a bit different to what he normally does. Figures from the old Space Hulk game. This is a Gene Stealer.
Surely you mean Gene Stealer?
No, not a Gene Stealer. Why would you call it that? It's a Gene Stealer. It deals genes. This kind of sci-fi fantasy thing is new for Trekan, and I think he's doing quite well at it. Here's another Gene Stealer that Trekan shared a bit later. This one looks a lot more denim-y, which I've decided is a real word, despite the spell checker repeatedly correcting it to denim. It's denim-y. It has the appearance of denim. Denim-y. A real word now. Musei shared this little diorama featuring a Confederate soldier enjoying a warm cup of sorghum in a muddy rifle pit at the Battle of Bentonville. The figure is in 32nd scale from Verlinden. The logs in the trench are made from pieces of cotton stalk that Musei collected from the Bentonville battlefield, and the dead logs on the ground are pieces of dead cypress tree from the same battlefield. This is very nicely done, and I think the use of material from the actual place the model represents is a really cool touch. Peterenko shared this FV432. This is a 72nd scale model from Takom. Peterenko says they painted this as a test bed prior to painting a chieftain, in order to work on their painting process and figure out a sensible order in which to do things. I believe the chieftain has also been shared, so go check that out on Discord. Peterenko is very happy with this result, and rightfully so. It's a very satisfying feeling when you can see improvement in your modelling work. or anything really. I think it looks awesome. Keep up the good work. Monol shared this panther, which looks like it's been out for a spin in some muddy fields, and maybe been shot at a bit. It also looks amazing, but that's kind of stating the obvious, isn't it? I rather like the way that piece of skirting on the right side is just hanging on, and that damage on the front of the tank is amazing. The model is a Tamiya 48th scale Panzer aus Führung G early production, for those interested. Glorious. Anyway, that's it for the modelling this month. Gotta keep it short this time. I've done so much talking lately that my throat is starting to wear out. If you want to see more modelling work, and take part in talking about modelling and other things, head on over to the Discord server. The link is in the description below. As always, a big thank you to the folks who share their modelling work and ask questions, and also watch the videos, and an extra big thank you to those who support this channel on Patreon and via Twitch subs and things like that. I appreciate you all. For patrons, there's currently a poll to determine the next Flames of War tank I build, so go vote for that. Ask a Herbert Erpaderp will be back next month, so put your burning questions in the appropriate places. You can find links to Patreon and all of my other things like Discord and social media in the description below. Take care of yourselves, be excellent to each other, and thanks for watching. Farewell.